Good morning, dear students. So, welcome to the computer class. Basically, this will be the first computer class you can say after a long gap, because after the holidays and after that PT1. So, when the school have started, so after that we got this class actually basically the as a first period, because the first period whatever we got, that in that class we have learned about the PDF and all fine. And the next class, that was the last Saturday, it was actually a holiday because that's a 15th August. So today is the first class basically we're getting. And students, one thing that we will get one more Saturday before the unit test. So student, here the third chapter that we are going to start today, that is hardware and software. That hardware and software, students, it is a little bit longer chapter, but today I am going to complete this the basic things of this chapter. Why? Because we will get one more class. In that class we will discuss the question answers, because after that directly it will be the unit test, it will be started. So before unit test we have to complete at least one chapter, so that I can give you questions from this chapter in the unit test. Okay, so as I told that this chapter, that is third chapter, will be the syllabus for your computer for unit test. Okay, so students, let us start. Please take out your textbook copies, because you need to write down the objective and other details also. Okay, so the video of today's video may be a little bit a longer one, since we need to cover up many of the things in today's period itself. Okay, so students, first of all, please take out your copy and write down today's date, then your chapter 3 and the name of the chapter first. That's the heading of the chapter, hardware and software. Below to that, we are going to first learn, that is write down the learning outcomes, or you can say the objectives. Okay, the learning outcomes or the objectives, if we say number first, what we are going to learn in this chapter is to learn about the hardware and software components. What are these hardware and what are these softwares for a computer, that we are going to learn, because these are the two basic things of a computer. Without these two things, a computer cannot run. Fine. Then the second objective is about to learn about the function of different parts of the computer. So we have already discussed about IPO model in the previous classes. Then we have learned about, you can say, the numeric keyboard, more on keyboards. That means the what are the functions of the keyboards. But the other parts are also there of the computer, not only the keyboard. So those functions also we are going to discuss. So students, please write down this objective in your copy right now. Pause the video and write down the whole thing here. Okay, so students, if you start now, lesson number 3, what is written here in the first, that is that friends, by now we know about the different computer devices and the way they work. That is the first sentence they have written in the box. Do you remember the types of the devices? Let us recall to and learn more about this. So let us start. So here, if you see, the first is given, the invention of the computer has had a huge impact on our day-to-day lives. They are now present all over, at home, at work and in school. So that we already know, students, that a computer has a very wide use in present life. Instead, some of the live classes you are even doing maybe in the laptop or in a computer. Okay, so from that only we can understand the impact or the uses of computer in our day-to-day life. In the first lesson, we learned that the computer works on the principle of input process output model, that is the IPO model, input process output. It accepts data, process it and give the result. Input devices are used to get the data into the system. The output devices show the result of the processing. So we know how input, output, how input and processing and output work. That already we have discussed in the first chapter itself. Now, do you remember the names of the input or output devices? Can you identify them? So that's it. There is an let us do number 1. That's an activity has been given. List the device and decide whether each device in the box is an input or output. Now you can see there is a box given. On the left hand side device, on the right hand side input or output, and below you can see some of the devices names are given. So you need to put those devices name in the left hand side box, and you need to write down on the right hand side that whether that's an input or output device. Say suppose keyboard. So keyboard is what? Keyboard is of course an input device. Then monitor. Monitor is what? In monitor we can see the result. So that means obviously it will be an output. Fine. So the other examples or other you can say devices names are given. So you need to put them accordingly, and after that you need to write down the result, like input or output, what devices they are. So that's an activity. So you have to complete it by yourself, the activity. Use pencil to write down there. Now let us go to the next page, that is a computer system consists of two major elements, that is hardware and software. This is a very important sentence, students. Please mark it properly, that a computer system is consists of mainly two elements, two major elements. That's, you can say, parts also, that is hardware and software. To make all input and output devices work together, we need both hardware and software. So without any one of this, it will not be possible to process or or a proper functioning of the computer. So both of them are, you can say, very important element or major element, you can say. So in this lesson we are going to learn. So already I have written the objective, what we are going to learn. It is also given in the textbook also. So these are the outcome, or these are the learning objectives. So students, please write down this objectives. It is also given in the textbook in that box also. Okay. Now we will go ahead with the next main part. That is, hardware is the physical part of a computer, parts of a computer. Software is the programs that run on a computer. Without hardware and the software would not be able to run. They need each other. That means you can say, you can see the picture here. That is, you can say computer. This is computer, and from here this has two branches. Now these two branches, one is, you can say, the hardware, and one is the software. So these are the two branches that is main, basically the computer system is made of. Now they say that hardware is the physical parts of a computer. Hardware is the physical. Now what does it mean? Physical means which you can touch. That is called the physical part. Now whatever is the physical part is the CPU part, you can say, isn't it? The keyboard, these things are, you can say, the hardware system, or the monitor, you can touch them. Software is the program that run on a computer. Now software you cannot touch. Okay, software you cannot touch, you cannot feel it. Software is something which you can at least use, or which is actually applied in the computer system to run the programs, different types of programs. Without hardware, the software would not be able to run. Definitely, when the hardwares are there, then only the software will work. Otherwise, if you do not have those things, whichever you can touch, say suppose the keyboard, mouse, the CPU, that software is, you can say, it is useless without the hardware. So they need each other. So that's a very important connection in between them. Now let us come to the hardware part. First we will discuss about the hardware, and then we will go to the software. Hardware, what is that? Computer hardware refers to the electronic parts that we can touch and feel. As I said you, hardware is the physical part. Physical means which you can touch. Okay. Now this is, you can say, the electronic part. Electronic part means what? Those which runs on electricity. So you can say the keyboard also needs power, CPU also needs power, monitor also needs power, isn't it? Printer also needs power. So these are called the electronic parts that we can touch and feel. It includes all the input and output devices that we learned about earlier. Now you remember the input and output devices that we have discussed in the you can say the IPO model. So those input and output devices are the hardware part, because we can touch it, isn't it? If you think about the printer, then fax machine, then you can say the speaker, and all these things we can touch. So these are the part of hardware. These are some hardware devices. The devices which are connected to the CPU by wires or wirelessly are known as peripheral devices. Now it is a very important definition, students. Please write it down in your copy. The definition of the peripheral devices. What is that peripheral devices? Is the devices which are connected to the CPU by wires or wirelessly. Now CPU, if you see how the things are connected with the CPU. What are the things connected with the CPU? You can connect the keyboard, you can connect the mouse, isn't it? Then you can connect the printer also through to the CPU, then the speakers, then the headphones. So these are called the peripheral devices. This can be connected through wire or wirelessly. Nowadays, students, you know, Bluetooth devices are coming. Now Bluetooth devices, we do not need wires to connect. They can be connected wirelessly. Okay. So which devices are connected with the CPU? through wires or without wires, that is wirelessly, that will be named as peripheral devices. And that definition you need to write down in the copy, because it may come in exam define what is peripheral devices. Okay, now hardware is classified into four types of devices. Now hardware, if you see, you can see the box there, yellow color box. So hardware is, again, it has four parts. Now what are these four parts? The first of all, that is hardware. Now hardware has four parts, and what are these four parts is, first one, if you make it, the first one is the input devices. Okay, so the first one is the input devices. Second is the processing device. Processing devices or processing device. Third one is the output devices. So you can see here IPO is coming. Output devices. Fine. And the last one is the storage devices. That is storage devices. Now students, if you see this one, you remember, because you look, by looking at these three things, you can understand this is the IPO model that we have discussed. That is input, processing, output. One extra is coming, that is the storage device, which we have not discussed in the IPO chapter. Now these hardwares are those things, that means whatever devices we have classified as input, processing or output device, those will be coming under hardware. And one more extra will be coming, that is the storage device. Now input devices, now we can obviously, now we know till now that what are the input devices, that is the mouse, that is the keyboard, through which we can enter data in the computer. So those are input devices. Fine. So then processing device, the CPU is the processing device, so that is also coming under hardware. Output device means like the printer, then you can say monitor. So these are the output device through which we can see the results or outcome, so that is also comes under hardware. And finally there is a more device, that is called storage. Now storage means how to store the information or how to store the data, that is called the storage device. Fine. That means some of the instruments or some of devices are there through in which we can store the information. Like commonly used storage device nowadays is the pen drive. You know the pen drive, many of you have already seen it, used it also. Pen drive, through we can save different types of information there. We can save pictures, we can save audio, we can save videos, isn't it? So that pen drive is also a type of storage device, so that already we know. Then CD DVDs are also there, but basically nowadays CD DVDs are not used because that is not so much convenient, since the size of the pen drive is very small and it has a huge capacity also. So that is why we nowadays use mainly pen drives. So that's a different thing, we will come to it. Let us see after that below. Now students, please write down this, you can say this, you can say tree, you can say this is a branch tree of hardware. Please copy down this one in your school copy. This is very, very important. Now next is given, do you know hardware also includes the cables, connectors and power supply units. Now what they are asking, hardware also includes cables. Cables means those cables through which we are connecting. Then the connectors, the plugs and all, and the power supply units. Power supply units means you can say the inverter on these are all the way through which we can supply the power. That means if the electricity is not there also, through which we can UPS, you can say through the UPS we are getting power. So that is also, you can say, power supply device or unit. So that is, those things are also coming under hardware. So that's a very interesting fact. Okay, the next one, while processing the computer saves the data or result in storage devices. Let us learn about them one by one. So now we are going to learn all these things one by one. Input devices. I hope input devices, you no need to learn more on that because we have already learned. Still we will see a little bit on that. Input devices consist of external parts by which we give data and commands to the computer. Common input devices are keyboard, mouse, scanner, etc. Now see, input devices consist of what? Parts by which we give data or command to the computer. So that is, you can say, the input. That means we give the information to the computer to do something. So those you can say devices are called the input devices. As for example, we have keyboard. So the keyboard is used to enter the data in the computer system. It can type letters and numbers, etc. We know that already. We have talked so much about keyboard, through which we can write letters and numbers. Mouse. The mouse is a painting device, a pointing device. It is used to give commands to the computer. Now, through mouse we can navigate the whole screen. You can say through where you want to go, where you want to click, which one you want to select. So that's why it is called a pointing device. And it can give command to the computer. So it can also give some instruction to the computer also. So that is the use of mouse. Then there is something called joystick. Now joystick, maybe as a student I know joystick, maybe you are more familiar with joystick. Why? Because you used to play games, isn't it? So when you play games, there is a you can say stick type of thing which you can be navigated through left, right, and you can say front, back. So that is called the you can say joystick, which is basically used in games. So that is also a, you can say, input device. Then the scanner. We use scanner to copy a document and input it into a computer. We scan the things. Scan means we scan photographs, we scan you can say documents. So this scanner machine is also, you can say, it's an input device, because through which we can give the picture or the image to the computer after scanning. Microphone. The microphone allows us to input sounds like our speech and songs into the computer. Through microphone you can record the audio and you can send the input sound. These sounds you can send to the computer. So that is why microphone is also an input device. Then webcam. Webcam camera takes pictures and puts it into the computer. Now webcam is like a camera only. So the camera also takes pictures and videos and it can send to the computer. So that is why it is an input device. So input device means which the device can send information to the computer. That is the input device. So webcam is also one of them. That's why. After that, what is there? That is processing device. Now processing device, if you see, through which we process. Now there is only one device which can process everything. That is the CPU. That is called the central processing unit. The central processing unit, which is called the brain of the computer. Now this is a one important keyword, brain of the computer, that is called the CPU, is also hardware. Obviously CPU you can touch or not. So if you can touch that thing, that's a hardware part. It is the most important part of the computer. It controls all the other parts and does all the calculations of the computer. So that is the brain. Why it is called brain? Because it is the everything of the computer is done in the CPU only. So that is why it is called the brain of the computer. Fine. That also we have discussed before also. And now output devices. Some of the output devices. Output hardware consists of devices that transfer information from the computer to the user. Below are some examples of hardware output device. Now let us see the output device. So now see, these devices also can be touched, feel. So that means these are also you can say hardware. But these devices now can give you output. So let us see one by one. Monitor. Of course monitor you can touch, isn't it? And in the monitor what we get? The computer displays the result of processing on a TV like display screen called monitor. It almost looks like a TV, isn't it? The monitor is also known as VDU and that is called Visual Display Unit. Very important question, students. It may come as a 1 mark question. What is VDU? So that you have to write a full form, that is Visual Display Unit. Or what is the another name of monitor? That is VDU. Printer. The printer can print the results of our work on paper. The output is called a printout. Now printout, that means whatever, if a document is there and we need to have a hard copy of that, so we can print out that through the printer and we can get it. So and that result, that is the paper through in which it is printed, that is known as print out, because that is coming out from the computer. So that is why it is known as printout. Projector. It takes the image from a computer and projects them on a large flat surface. Now projector means which are the projectors? In cinema halls also, if you have seen the projectors, because the it takes the information from the videos or audios, it takes from the computer and it you can say display somewhere else. Somewhere else means where it will on a large screen it can display the thing. So that is called the projector. Fine. So that's also a hardware, but it is giving out a result, isn't it? So that's why it is an output device. Speakers. Now microphone is an input device. Microphone through which you can speak, you can give information to the computer. But speakers through which you can hear, listen. So speakers, you can listen to music, speeches or sounds from a computer through a speaker. So when we get the information through the speaker, so that's why speaker is under you can say output devices, but it is also a hardware of course. Then storage devices. As we have seen the last one, that is the storage devices. Any hardware that stores information in a computer is called storage device. Let's have a look at some of the hardware storage devices. First one is the hard disk. Now hard disk is what? Hard disk you will not be able to see from outside. Okay, hard disk is actually it is fixed inside the CPU. We can take it out somehow, but ultimately it is not visible from outside. A hard disk is the data storage device. It is used for storing, recovering large volumes of data. So this hard disk is actually put inside the CPU to store the data of the computer. Okay, and to recover the data also sometimes, because sometimes you can transfer all the data into the hard disk, and from hard disk we can take out later also. So that is called recovering. So that hard disk is a storage device, but it can be touched. So definitely it's a hardware. CD or DVD. It is round disk with a shiny surface. It is used to store large amounts of data, mostly games, videos, movies, songs, etc. Now you can see the picture on the right hand side. It is given. It's a round disk, shiny surface. Now that is called CD or DVD. Now CD and DVD are also, these are some storage devices. You can store data here, movies, audios, and the games also are stored in that CD and DVDs. So that is mainly, you can say this is also a storage device. You can touch it and it can store data information. So that's why it is a storage device. Then USB pen drive or flash drive. As I told you earlier, pen drive is the most commonly used storage device nowadays because it is handy. We can easily carry anywhere. This it is very lightweighted also, in very small size also. It is a handy storage device and connects to the computer via the USB port. In the CPU, there are some USB, there are some plugs, you can say, where you can put or fix this, insert this USB pen drive. So that is called USB port. It can also be used to store or transfer data from one computer to another. So we can easily take information or data from one computer in the pen drive, and that same information I can transfer to another computer using that pen drive on the another computer, isn't it? So that is why it is called, we can transfer data also using, that is USB pen drive. Then let us do, there is an activity. What do you call the objects shown in the pictures? Are they hardware or software? Students, the pictures which are given there, what we can say, there is a connecting cables also, you can say data cables also we can say, because of the whatever is given in the picture. Now are they hardware or software? Of course we can touch it, isn't it? If we can touch that thing, then that will be a hardware, it cannot be a software. Remember student, anything which we can touch of a computer part, that will be a hardware part. The computer hardware mentioned above, it is controlled by list of commands called software. Let us learn more about it. Now after hardware we are coming to the next part, that is next main important major part, is this is a software part. So software, what is that? Software refers to the part of the computer which we cannot touch. Remember, which we cannot touch, that is called the software. It exists in the form of commands which makes the computer work. These are some instructions which are already given to the computer, and those are called software. We cannot touch it, we cannot, and this is because of that only the computer can run so many programs, and these programs are actually the softwares. A set of commands is called a program, and one or more program is termed as a software. Now this is very important. This is the definition, students. Please write down this definition. A set of commands is called program. When you combine some commands and you fix it, that will be called a program. And when more than one programs are combined and fixed, then that is called a software. Now do you know the games you play on the computer are softwares? Of course. The games that we play in computer, whatever type of game, those all are actually the softwares only. Let us take the example of a TV. The TV itself is a hardware. TV, we already know, everybody have TVs at home, so that's a hardware. But the program we watch on TV are software. Now whatever we are watching it is, the TV is actually only the hardware part, but whatever we can see there or enjoy the movie or whatever, those are actually the software part. There are two main types of software. So now see students, there is a branch systems is again given for the software. That also you need to write down now. Please write down this one, that software now software has two part mainly, that is one is system software, that is system software, and another is application software, that is application software. Okay, so these are the main two, you can say, basic part of the software. One is system software. What is that? Let us see. The system software makes a computer useful. It helps all parts of a computer work together. The operating system is the most important system software. Now see, thus the software which actually runs the computer, the whole thing, it connects and it runs the whole computer programs. That is called the you can say system software. Okay, now out of the system software, the operating software is the most important system software. Operating software, okay, it is the first software loaded on the computer into the computer memory. So this is when a manufacturing company is producing a computer or making any computer, they first install this system software so that it can run the programs. Okay, and that is called the operating software. Now some of the operating software names which can be said as Microsoft Windows. The Windows that basically we see in the computer the screen, the symbol of the Microsoft Windows, that is, then we can say Mac operating system, and then one is Linux and one is Unix. So these four names are given. As for example, you can say Windows are mainly used, basically we are using. Then I hope you have seen the digital classroom of our school. Obviously you have seen the digital classroom of our school have a Linux software. They do not have Windows, they have a Linux software. So you will come to know about this, what are these what are the specialty or features of this thing in higher classes. But just remember the names, that is Microsoft Windows, then Mac, you can say operating system, Mac OS, and Linux and Unix. These are some examples of operating software. Now do you know it's given a CPU is the brain of the computer, that already we know. An operating system is known as the heart of the computer. Now say brain and heart, both the things are required, isn't it? A person cannot live without brain, a person cannot live without heart also. So similarly a computer also needs both the things, that is brain and heart. Brain is the CPU and heart is the operating software. Okay, so that is operating system. Now application software, we talked about this one, that is what is system software, which is the main part of the software system. Application software are what? Application software is designed to perform a specific task. For example, MS Paint is used for drawing and coloring. Notepad is used for typing text. We use calculator for calculation. Some more examples include MS Word, MS PowerPoint, media player and games. Now application software are those which you can actually use for specific purpose. Okay, in MS Paint what we can do? We can paint, isn't it? We can write or paint also. Then in MS Word what we can type letters, we can type documents. Okay, calculator, what is the function of calculator? To calculate things, plus, minus, multiply, divide. All these things have different tasks, different purposes, isn't it? So these are known as application software. Okay, now this application software in mobiles also you can see many apps are there, isn't it? What are these apps actually? These apps are actually the application software, nothing else. Okay, so let us do 3. Identify the following software from their icons. Now you can see some of the pictures are given and you need to write down the names of that. The first one is a W and that stands for Word, that is MS Word, so that is Microsoft Word. The second one is the Notepad, or you can say notebook. Okay, because that we can say Notepad in which we can type some small things, that is Notepad, the symbol stands for that. That is an you can say Windows symbol, whatever is given on the third. Fine. And the fourth one is, obviously you should know this, that is the MS Paint. We can paint through this, so that is why it is the symbol is also like that, like a painting brush and all things are there. So that is MS Paint. So which among these is a system software? So the third one is a system software because that is the Windows. That symbol is for Windows. Now Windows is a system software, isn't it? First one, Microsoft Word, that is an application software because we can only type there. That is a specific function. Notebook also is used for typing, that is also a specific function. Paint, the fourth one, is also for specific function to paint only. Third one is the Windows, which is the which is not an application software, that is a system software. So you can write in the blank place, that is the third one, that is Windows. Okay, MS Windows. So students, these are all the details we have discussed in this class. Now glossary is given, that is the things that we have already discussed. So let us see and conclude this one. Number one is application software, set of programs designed to perform a specific task. Application software will be for specific task only. Calculator, software capable of performing mathematical calculations. We know that mathematical calculation we use calculator. Number three, that is debugging. Removing errors from a program is called debugging. Now some errors sometimes arises in a program. To remove that, we call debugging. Hardware, physical part of the computer that we can see and touch. I already told you about that. Media player. A media player is a computer program for playing videos, movies and music. Program. A computer program is a collection of instructions that perform a particular task when executed by the computer. So it's a commands, it's a group of commands, you can say, which or instructions only, which can actually run a particular task. Software, set of computer programs that perform a specific task. Now software is a set of computer program. If you some specific instructional commands are combined, that will become a program. When some programs are combined, that will become a software. Then user. A user is a person who uses the computer. Of course, if you are using the computer, you are called user. If I am using, I will be called the user. Fine. So students, these words are very important, because in exam you may get questions from these words also. That what is a software, what is an user, what is debugging. So please you need to understand these questions as well. So inside the lab, that is not possible as of now. Then the teachers note, that is for us. And learner's note is that collect information about any three hardware other than those given in the chapter. That means you need to find out three more hardware which is not given in the textbook. Whatever is given in the textbook, you cannot write them. That is your work. Second, name 5 software present in the computer inside your lab. So that lab you will not be able to see as of now, but still you will be able to find it out, okay, if you try. So try these two things at your home. I'm not asking you to send it to me or write it to me anything, but try to find out this two information which is given in the learner's note. Exercise we will discuss in the next class, and that we will wind up the first chapter. That will complete the first chapter. But before ending, students, let us do a recalling. Recalling means I will just draw one picture here. That is, basically we divide the computer system in two things. That is what? That is, one is hardware and one is software. Isn't it? Now hardware is actually divided into 4 parts. Now this hardware is divided into 4 parts. Now what are those 4 parts? First one was input device. Then the next one is processing, then this one is output, and this one was storage. And software also is divided into 2 parts. Okay, that is, one is system software, and another is application software. So students, please remember this branching, okay, because this branching is very important. If you remember this, that the complete chapter is almost, you can say, it is already done. Just you need to remember the examples of this, okay. So please, you can note down this in your copy, so that you can remember, and sometime you can see and remember the whole thing, okay. So that's all for today, students. Since this is a little bit longer video, as I told you, because we have completed the chapter in one class itself, because one more class, and that will be the exercise solving question answers, and then we will have the unit test. So unit test syllabus is this one only, that is chapter number 3, okay. And one more thing, students, the presentation I have not sent. I will send you by the next week the presentation topic. You need to prepare, but no need to make videos on that. I hope so. I will give a confirmation how to make it, and I will let you know in the message. I will write it down, okay. So till that time, study well. Thank you.